Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very special episode of Uncanny Treks as we talk about the penultimate episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3. I'm Bob in Cascadia. That's Matt in the Southland. We are talking Terrarium. Matt, how you doing this evening?
Man, Bob, that was an emotional roller coaster this episode. I'm just glad I'm off the ride.
Yeah. You can stop feeling feelings for a little bit now, Matt. You
Yeah,
happy about that?
I'm good. I can stop with the feelings.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. So what goes down in Terrarium?
Well, Bob, after flying a shuttle through a wormhole and crash landing on the other side, Ortegas befriends a Gorn in order to survive.
Matt, I wanted to ask, two movies came to mind as I was watching this episode, although obviously a Star Trek episode is the paramount. Two movies came to mind. Have you ever seen The Martian starring Matt Damon or Hell in the Pacific starring Lee Marvin and Toshiro Mifune?
I have seen neither, Bob.
To be honest, I've either never seen Hell in the Pacific or I've only seen clips of it on TBS as it was airing. But it's basically Toshiro Mifune, Lee Marvin, they're World War II soldiers. They get stranded on an island in the Pacific. You can fill it in, right?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a pretty good movie. I should actually watch it. And then The Martian, I just thought of because of all the early Robinson Crusoe stuff where Ortegas is trying to survive on the moon or the asteroid, whatever it is she's crashed on. And that gave me a lot of specific vibes of Matt Damon's The Martian, although, which is an okay movie. Honestly, I'm not sure how it holds up. I saw it in theaters 10 years ago and haven't seen it since. But yeah, obviously, long tradition of survival and science fiction.
Well, Bob, have you ever seen Enemy Mine?
I actually haven't, Matt, but I know the movie you're talking about, and I believe it's a remake of Hell in the Pacific in a science fiction context.
Actually, Bob, it's based on a novella.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure it's just a remake of the movie.
Pretty sure that novella, Bob, was in an Asimov thingy-majoohickey, and it was written by a dude named Goodyear, correct? Or Lightyear, something like that. Space name. Well, I just want to let you know, Bob, that I read the first 10 pages of Enemy Mine, and it's the exact same setup as this episode.
This novella was published 10 years after Hell in the Pacific, and also, one should note, 10 years after Arena aired. So I'm going to go with Enemy Mine as a remake of Hell in the Pacific.
Bob, question. Did Hell in the Pacific include a reptilian that's learning the language?
No, Matt, it included a Japanese soldier. I already explained that.
Bob, that's racist. Are you trying to say that the
Racist
Japanese
that you
people
can't
are
see
Gorn? Is that what you're trying to say, Bob? Are you anti-Japanese? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, it's racist that you can't see the anti-racist allegory. That's what's racist.
I'm just proud of myself, Bob, because I did go and I did find on the Internet Archive the first 10 pages of this book. And it was boring, but it did include the exact same setup as this plot. It was two fighter pilots crashed onto a planet and have to survive with the enemies that are there.
Well, Matt,
One is
running into a problem with the survival genre, which is the survival genre is boring. If you've ever read Robinson Crusoe,
But Bob, Castaway was so good. What are you talking about?
Castaway was not good. Also, The Martian, the other movie I was talking about, also based off a novel. I have not read that novel. I have, however, read a short story by the writer of The Martian, and it is the worst thing I've ever read. I hate it so much. So I'm willing to say that The Martian is probably a bad novel too. So just in general, lone survival on an island stories or lone survival on an asteroid stories or even dual survival on an asteroid. Not always high entertainment. So I think you have to give Terrarium props for not being super boring.
Yeah, I will give you that. It is the exact same setup as the story I'm referring to, but it is still a good episode. I don't want anybody to dissuade from that thinking. I'm not trying to say that they're just copying it.
Do you think this is a pretty good episode?
I was entertained by this episode, yes, until I got to the end. And we'll talk about that as we go through.
Okay, yeah. I don't think this is a bad episode, but I do think this is near the Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
I will agree with that, Bob.
I would put it near.
Oh, the end ruined it for me.
Oh, interesting.
We'll talk about it.
Well, Matt, we'll go from our very sophisticated criticism of the ends in a minute, but I want to go now to a very shallow point that I'm pretty sure I ask you twice a season on this show anyway. Is it just me, or does Pike look a lot older this episode?
I don't know, Bob. He is 52 years old, the actor Anson Mount. So you have to give him credit
I
there.
did not realize he was in his
Yeah,
early 50s.
so the dude's going to start aging eventually. But I mean, it's been a long time since Crossroads with Britney Spears, which every time I look up his Internet Movie Database, that's like the first thing that pops up. It's so crazy to me.
I'm pretty sure you tell me that once a year as we podcasts about the show, and I'm pretty sure I have always, at first I didn't know, then I forget again, then you say it again, then I'm surprised again. It's an endless cycle. It was towards the end of our high school days, right? 2002 or
Yeah,
something.
that gives you an idea of how long Ant's been doing this.
Matt, we're going to get into some heavy prequel stuff later, but at the outset, we have a reference to Matt Decker, although they just call him Decker, commanding Constellation, which is interesting because the Constellation is the ship from Doomsday Machine. Decker is a very memorable character from that episode. Also, it's memorable because they were doing a very heavy fake out earlier that the scavenger ship was the Doomsday device from the Doomsday Machine.
Right.
So interesting. But yeah, he's in command of the Constellation by this point, but he's not yet a Commodore. He's just a
Help me out with Matt Decker, Bob. Who's the dude on the motion picture that's played by the guy?
That's his son.
That's his son. Okay. Because anytime I hear Decker, I think of that guy and not the one from the Constellation. But then I Google him. Oh, yeah, the dude, his eyes were sunken in.
The crazy looking guy.
Yeah.
I'm 90% sure this is right, that his son, who's supposed to be the captain of the Enterprise, but he gets disbumped by Kirk to be his first officer, that's Willard Decker.
Willard Decker. I cannot think of the name for the life of me.
One could say that Kirk screwed two Deckers.
He did a double decker.
Okay, Matt, I do have to say, and I don't really mean this to be a therapy hour or autobiography hour or autoerotic memoir hours, but is just me, or once we actually see the Gorn in her hood, is she cute in that robe?
It's a combination of the injury, so it's in slight pain. There's that toothy grin, and then the robe itself seems flowing and more maternal than what you would expect.
That's very good. Don't like the fact that she's injured makes her cuter / more attractive to me, but I think you're right. I think you've psychologically cracked. I'm a little disturbed by what you found.
And do you remember the Goombas from the Super Mario Brothers movie in 1992, the old school movie?
I remember the Goombas. I don't remember the Goombas from...
Well, they're completely different. And I've read you a picture in the notes, Bob, but anytime I saw this thing smiling, this is all I could think of was this toad. And I'm like, oh, they got a friend. And I really wanted this character to maybe become a part of the cast. Maybe.
So I just want to confirm I'm seeing the image you put in the notes, but I'm doubting my own eyes. Basically, the Goombas in the 90, it was at a 94 movie?
The 90,
Hoskins movie?
I think it was 92, yeah. I watched it in Albany, Georgia.
Oh, well, okay. But they basically look like a really, really huge guy in a Star Trek II uniform with a really tiny... Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, that's exactly what they look like, but they're reptilian in the head, and that's the whole part. But the smile, the toothy smile, is exactly, it reminds me of what that it looks scary, but at the same time, it's meant to be more of a smile or a greeting. The reptile has, we can make money off that.
I don't think we can make money off that, but it's a clever saying. Another thing on the subject of the Gorn, beside her resemblance to this horrific thing from a 1992 or 94 movie, is that she understands English. I like that dynamic, that she understood English.
I don't get where she would have learned.
It's actually very well set up.
Oh, it is.
Then we have Ortega's talking about, I'm just playing chess with a Gorn, which was pretty fun. Pretty funny. I did want to hit you with a crackpot theory, though. While I was watching this, because remember, we thought Erica had been implanted with a Gorn in the season 3 premiere.
Well, we thought something weird happened to her. We weren't quite sure. We thought it might be implanted because she was doing the same thing that Battelle was doing.
Yeah, exactly. And it seems what they were going for, it was Ortegas is just haunted by her experience with the Gorn. But I think we read it at the end of that season 3 premiere as, oh no, she's literally been implanted by it. And then as that never paid off, okay, we were just misreading it. It's just she's traumatized. Am I remembering that right?
Correct. And then you had the episode where she almost got reprimanded by Una. And you could see there was some anger building in her, but you could tell there was something wrong with her at that point. So they were still playing off that idea that maybe the Gorn had done something to her.
But the real Gorn is trauma.
The real Gorn is trauma, guys. That's the Gorn we have to fight.
The anger that develops from trauma.
Yeah.
And so all that I thought was pretty clear and pretty established. But during this episode, I did start to have the thinking that, whoa, what if Erica actually was implanted by the Gorn, and what if she's stuck in this wormhole, because presumably in the wormhole time might work differently than on the outside. What if she's stuck on this asteroid or moon in the wormhole for 20 years, and what if she does transform into a Gorn? And so what if it's her as a Gorn, and that's why the Gorn is friendly as opposed to just a random Gorn?
Oh, so you thought she fell in one of those DS9 wormholes?
Yeah, I
Like,
thought she had a little Molly O'Brien type situation. I thought maybe we were going to get at the end of this, our Erica wasn't going to make it, but Gorn Erica was going to come out and join the crew.
there you go.
I didn't really think this, but I was entertaining it as a possibility while I was watching. And I think that actually does point to something about the episode that's good that you were observing too, is that they do really draw attention to there's something that feels unreal about the setup that the Gorn and Ortegas are in, right?
The main thing is she's running into the one thing she fears, which, like, on a random ass planet, you fell through a wormhole. Come on. Part of me thought maybe the Gorn wasn't really there and it was just an imagining in her head. And she was using that as something to push her by facing her fear or bonding with her fear, or, as you said earlier, maybe this was her therapy. She learned to speak with her trauma, talk through her trauma, work through her trauma on this planet. The Gorn are both the trauma and the healing and the therapy.
So should we talk about the climax, man?
Bob, let's talk about that ending, man. Leon shoots this Gorn.
She does.
I mean, it's just, why? Okay, before that, though, I do want to rewind just a little bit. What did you think when Ortegas ran for the thing to manually set it up to blow up, to make the planet explode? Did you think she might die there? Did you think this was going to be... There were people online who thought that. They thought this was maybe the end of Ortegas.
I thought early in the episode that there was some possibility, especially because this was a penultimate episode of a season. I thought there was some possibility early in the episode that Ortegas might die or Ortegas might be lost for a long time. I did, but by that point in the episode, I was, no, like, dramatically, they're going to kill her or lose her at this point. If they were going to do it, they would have played it differently.
Right. Well, that was my thing, too. I'm thinking, okay, if Ortegas dies here, and then they beam down, and they see that Gorn, and that's the only survivor, how weird would that plot have been?
Well, in a weird way, it wouldn't have played out that much differently, right?
Right, yeah.
Presumably would have still executed.
Gone down, shot the Gorn, yeah. It just would have been, but then they would have thought that the Gorn may have been responsible for her death.
So I feel weird about saying this, Matt, and let me preface it by saying that obviously what I'm about to say sounds like I'm about to defend police violence. I don't defend police violence. We need both gun control and demilitarized policing in the United States. And even if individual cops can individually justify their execution of people in individual cases, even if any particular individual case, maybe the cop didn't do something wrong, quote unquote, the number of unarmed or not armed, and even armed people executed by American police is obscene. There's nothing like it in any other wealthy, advanced democracy. It's obscene. It's a problem. Absolutely, things need to change.
Yes.
So be clear about that. A lot of people online are really angry with Laan for killing the Gorn, and I think it's pretty reasonable in the context. The first thing she sees is Erica crawling forward, and then she sees a Gorn who, let's not forget, used her as a food slave. She sees a Gorn following Erica. I think shooting the Gorn was not an unreasonable thing to do in that situation.
Yeah, Bob, but that's the way it was even structured and set up. You got Ortegas coming out of the shelter, and then you have the Gorn following behind her. They just shoot to kill immediately.
But the way it's shot, to me, when it happened on the episode, I thought, oh man, that's sad. I felt really bad for the Lady Gorn.
Yeah.
But I didn't think that really sucks that Starfleet and Laan did that. But then I saw the outrage online about it in the reviews, and I rewatched it. And because from Laan's perspective, it looks like the Gorn is pursuing her.
It looks like it's just coming out the shelter, Bob.
But she's scrambling out with the Gorn on all fours.
Because the shelter was short.
But, dude, they're going into a hostile situation.
You say something along the line of, don't shoot. Why did that not happen?
I think that's somewhat realistic.
Or, hey, Gorn, wait here while I go greet my people, and then we'll come back and come get you out. And they'll introduce you. For somebody that can build a water dehumidifier thing from spare parts or whatever, she can take anything apart and put it together. That seems logical to me, that she would, hey, wait here for just a second.
Say Erica probably should have thought through preparations more about how to introduce her crew to her new girlfriend. I
Yes.
think, there should have been more steps. So that's a little bit on Erica, but she's under high stress. I do feel it's tragic. It sucks, but it's a dramatically satisfying end to the episode. I don't know if I found it as outrageous as you or some of the inmates.
My other problem too, why couldn't the Gorn have sacrificed itself and gone and pushed a button on the thing? That would have been beautiful as well.
Well, so maybe this kind of gets into I think my answer to that requires us to get into more to the prequel angles.
Oh, okay.
So before we do that, did you want to, well, I did just want to say, okay, so the Metrons from Arena show up, right?
Okay.
They do the effect where they freeze La'an's away team as they're beaming away. I thought that was actually a really cool visual effect.
It was a cool visual effect. Them being in the episode seemed so unnecessary to me.
We now have had 2 episodes this season that kind of end with original series gods showing up. We had Trelane at the end of the Spock Chapel / Kirby thing, and then we have the Metron showing up now. Or I guess it's Q and Trelane.
Right.
The Chapel episode and the Metrons now. So I'm getting the sense that you're really peeved by this trend.
Yeah, I feel like James Gunn is directing this, Bob. The whole Gods and Monsters thing.
Ooh. All right. Well, Matt, I agree with you that this is a way, way heavy prequel. It's heavier as a prequel than I would usually care for. And I'm a little bit struggling to justify why I still like this episode and I still don't like Alien Earth. Does that make sense? But I decided to rewatch Arena last night after I made the notes. And I didn't think I needed to because I thought I remembered it pretty well. And in a way I did. But I will say, if you go back and watch Arena, I'm not necessarily saying that it'll make you like this episode more or like the end. But this episode isn't just repeating Arena. It's doing a lot of really interesting commentary on Arena. Do you mind if I walk you through a couple?
Yeah, go right ahead. Just go through it.
So one thing to just start, this isn't a huge deal to start with, but you don't see the Gorn for the first 20 minutes of Arena, which is interesting. And yeah, that's not an uncommon thing in original Star Trek, right? They do it with the Romulans. They also do it, I think, to a lesser extent with the Tholians. And they also do it with the Orions. And partially it's just a budget thing. Although you could also maybe make an argument that, that's a more realistic way that sci-fi combat would happen between species with faster than light travel. Sure.
Well, it builds suspense, Bob.
It builds suspense, man. It builds suspense. Another thing to note, and I still think there is some continuity trouble between all the things we've seen with the Gorn in Strange New Worlds and also in Enterprise versus the Gorn we see here in the original series episode Arena. But it is worth noting that Kirk and Spock don't know they're dealing with the Gorn until the Metrons say that they're the Gorn and Kirk is face to face with it. I still don't think it works perfectly, but if you're the writer of this episode Terrarium, you can somewhat argue, and you're the writer of the previous Gorn episodes of Strange New Worlds, you can somewhat argue, well, Kirk and Spock have heard of the Gorn, Spock's encountered the Gorn, but they don't know it's the Gorn when they're starting the episode.
They don't have a clue if that's who they're dealing with.
Another thing that is interesting that I totally forgot is that it's established in Arena that the Gorn actually do understand English very well.
Oh.
And they not only do they understand it well enough to send a persuasive messages to the Enterprise. I was surprised, but the stuff with the Lady Gorn in Terrarium understanding English, that's actually very well established in Arena.
Interesting. Yeah, no idea. So is there Duolingo for the Gorn? How they learn that?
The idea, which Erica says and the Lady Gorn dismisses, but I think there's maybe something to it, is that Erica's, you study your prey.
Yeah.
But I think the idea is the Lady Gorn dismisses it because it's too crude. But I do think that general idea of the Gorn being a species that has active and hibernation cycles, it does seem like part of their strategy might be really detailed and slow observation, right?
Yeah. Maybe they learn through their slumber too, their long slumber. Some kind of thing they plug in.
They have probes or something going out while they're in hibernation.
They've got some AI stuff just to get them through.
This lady, I assume this Lady Gorn has been stuck on this planet since before the Gorn went into hibernation. I can't remember if the episode deals with that.
I don't remember it being specific, but I would assume, yeah.
So either she was left out of the hibernation effect for somehow, or she's been stuck here for a little while. And in that way, it makes it seem like probably the Gorn knowledge of English predates the Gorn encounters we saw earlier in Strange New Worlds. Although now that we say that, it makes me want to go back and rewatch those episodes and see. One other little aside about Arena, and this is not important to the discussion of Terrarium as a prequel to Arena, but just I thought it was cool that Kirk and Spock are on the planet looking at the outpost the Gorn destroyed, and so Sulu has the con. And I'm not sure if that's the first time Sulu gets the con or if it's the only time he gets the con in the original series, but I just thought that it was cool.
Yeah, that is weird. It kind of reminds me in this episode, we actually see Pike at the helm.
Oh, yeah, we do.
And then you see Spock in the chair that the cons.
In Ortega's episodes, we do tend to see Pike at the helm because they're twinning. Another thing I thought was really interesting is in the original Arena episode, I don't know if you remember how meta that episode is, but it's very much the Metrons put the Gorn and Kirk on the planet to fight. They announce themselves as we are recording this to show your species because it might be educational.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Enterprise crew, or I can't remember if the Enterprise crew figures out how to watch it or the Metrons show it to the Enterprise crew because they're, oh yeah, your captain's about to get killed by this Gorn. Here, watch. It basically is you are watching TV of the Enterprise bridge crew watching TV of Kirk fight the Gorn, right?
Right.
And it's interesting just because it's obviously commentary on like television, right? But it's also interesting the ways that differs from this. So in some ways, I think when I first watched this episode, Terrarium, I was annoyed because I was, oh man. So it's just the Metrons are doing the same thing that they do 5 years later or 10 years later, however long it is. But in a way, they don't. In a way, they've actually very much changed their approach based on what happens with Ortegas and La'an and the Lady Gorn, because in the Terrarium, they don't announce themselves. There's not like a meta thing about TV, and it's only because Ortegas challenges them and notices that they reveal themselves to her. Whereas in Arena, they're much more adamant about, okay, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing this. Here, watch this and learn from this.
Right. Yeah, it is very meta in a sense.
Yeah, but I just think it's interesting. I'm not saying it makes this episode amazing, but it shows that the Metrons have been, okay, that first encounter didn't go like we'd hoped or wanted. Let's alter our approach for
To
this.
how to see if we can get it to, get them to actually.
Yeah. And I thought it was cool that it does, in a way, one of the things I dislike about Alien Earth as a prequel is it's just repeating the first two Alien movies, but it's repeating them while set before them, and it's making the first two Alien movies feel like they shouldn't matter at all. While in this, it's repeating Arena, but set before Arena, but it changes the circumstances a little, and it also has Ortegas do something that Kirk doesn't have to do. Ortegas has to figure out she's being, and Kirk doesn't, and I like that distinction.
Yeah, to me, this was a better. Okay, if you had to compare the two, Bob, let's say you were just going to say, okay, which episode would you say this episode is better than Arena?
Arena is better than Terrarium just because Terrarium is so dependent on Arena.
That's where I think I need to go back and rewatch Arena then. I've watched it 100 years ago, but I just remember what everybody else remembers, the fight with the Gorn.
I wouldn't always say you should go back to the prequels, right? I don't like saying that, but I just did it just for general edification, and I was shocked at how much it changed my response.
The title of the episode, Terrarium. If you're watching this and you don't have the Metrons and there's no real Terrarium, it's like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, the Metrons appearing at the end does make the title. It could still work, but
it makes a whole lot more sense, because part of me was thinking, I was trying to go back to the animated episode you made me watch that one time. I think they were in an ant farm or something.
Yeah,
I was thinking,
a couple like that, a couple.
Yeah, and I was, wow, is that what's going to happen here? Are we going to get the Ortegas is trapped in an ant farm and has to get out?
It is interesting that Strange New Worlds is picking up so much. A lot of original series stuff was followed up on in Next Gen and in DS9, but it seems Strange New Worlds is tending to pick up on the stuff as a prequel that was never picked up on in the sequels. Does that distinction make sense?
Right. They're having to pick and choose stuff that they didn't really cover with the others.
Another one last thing that's interesting is the Metron has a speech to Kirk at the end of the arena where he's, oh, I can't remember what scale of time, but I think he's, oh, you know, in another 10,000 years or whatever, you might be ready to have an exchange with us. And so in an interesting way, definitely you could do sequels with the Metrons, and I'm sure the novels already have, but you never need to see the Metrons again in Star Trek. And so, in a way, actually doing a prequel with the Metrons makes more sense than a sequel. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, because it's 10,000 years away.
Exactly. Matt, should we just go to our characters?
I will say this, Bob. This is something I hadn't said in a while. I was expecting a Ben Sisko appearance at some point. Did not happen. Slightly disappointed. But you could have had Ben Sisko right there. He could have shown up, but no, it was a Metron.
Why couldn't it have been the emissary?
No time in the wormhole. There's no...
In lieu of the emissary, who was your character of the week?
All right, Bob, I got to give it to Una. And it's just because of one thing she said. When Pike was at the helm and he starts bragging about he's still the second best pilot, and he asks him if he's ever told anybody that. And Una reminds him that they've all been told that countless times. And it just points out what a narcissist he is.
That's funny. Yeah, Una did a lot to check Pike this episode, too, and reminding him of, yeah, there's all these colonists who are dependent on it. It's not just Erica.
But that's another thing, too. Una and Ortegas have had this slight bit of conflict between the two of them. But it's all justified, though, because Ortegas didn't follow directions. And at the same time, Una's right in the sense that utilitarianism, she's more Spock in a sense of, we need to save more people.
Well, and it's funny that Una's in some ways more Spock than Spock. And I know the fans who really don't like Strange New Worlds won't want to hear this, but in some ways it's interesting having her as the ego ideal for Spock to grow into.
Yeah, position and everything.
No, that's good. That's good. I'm going to give it to the Lady Gorn, even though I would maintain that one wishes Lon didn't kill the Lady Gorn, but it's somewhat understandable. Nonetheless, I really like the Lady Gorn. R.I.P. to the Lady Gorn.
Yeah, and is there going to be awkwardness between Ortegas and Leon about shooting the Gorn friend?
The epilogue of the episode made me think Ortegas had got past that.
Yeah.
Especially just there being one episode left of the season. I would tend to think no, but I could be wrong.
I don't know.
Well, should I hit you with a few reactions?
It's with a few reactions, Bob. I saw a couple as I was going through, but nothing that just stuck out.
I'm going to start with one that utterly mystified me. I have no idea what it's saying. So if I just read the text, you would think this is a negative review, right? The text of the review is, why was this giving sci-fi original, sci-fi spelled like the network? Why was this giving sci-fi original crying emoji? That's the text. So that sounds like an insult, right? Why is this like a sci-fi original movie? But it was a 3-star review with a heart on it. So
I'm going to clarify. I kind of know what they're saying. I kind of understand it. And it has to do with the way it looks. Specifically, everything going on the planet itself after they go through the wormhole doesn't look great. It looks like what they use in the sci-fi movie type.
So I thought they were talking about the plot and the emotions, but they still seem to like the episode despite the visual effect.
Yes, that's exactly what they're saying. It's got that look to it. Oh, the sci-fi original movie. Because it doesn't look like an episode of Trek necessarily. Especially costumes and the design of the planet, the visual effects.
I'm glad you're able to translate that. I see it.
Wasn't that big.
This next one I'm going to read to you is an excerpt from a larger review, and I think it's very representative of a trend of comments on this, which was, quote, nothing hugely new, but great as an Ortegas episode, as well as demonsterifying the Gorn, comma, which was a concern for most of Strange New Worlds, period. They were gay for each other, Ortegas and the Gorn, close quotation. When I watched the episode, I didn't get the Ortegas and Gorn shipping energy. I got Ortegas and Uhura energy. I even put something in the notes about, man, why is Oda getting with Beta? She should be getting with the big sister. But then reading all the reviews, man, nobody's feeling Uhura and Ortegas. They're all feeling Ortegas and Gorn.
It would have been really awesome though if Ortegas did get with Uhura just to spite Beto for that crappy episode.
That would have been a good resolution.
Document this, brother.
That's And then the last one, this is a review I thought brought up something that was interesting that I wanted to see how you responded to. So the review goes, good, period. Would be better if it was like episode 6 rather than the episode before the finale, so that Ortegas' arc didn't feel stop and start all season. Close quote.
Would you go back and rewatch it? Just watch it as number 6 because it doesn't really matter.
That's a good review, man. I think you're being wrong. It hits something real, which is this. I'm not even saying like this, it makes the episode bad, but this doesn't feel what you would tend to expect of a penultimate episode of a season.
I will say this, Bobby. Yeah, I did expect there to be some cliffhanger or something that was going to lead into the finale. Something like I was figured Battelle would have responded maybe to something going on, turning into it something, or
oh man, but you want Battelle to put La'an on trial for executing
multiple things could have happened at the end of this episode to set up for a finale.
Battelle to put Uhura on trial for faking the data.
Yeah, pushing that percentage up just a little bit.
You want Battelle to put Pike on trial for to go into the wormhole on data he knew was faked.
And avoiding giving out a vaccine that was going to save children.
Pike goes anti-vax. Really controversial episode of Strange New Worlds.
What if RFK was on the Enterprise? That'd be crazy.
I say this with much love for Pike and much hate for RFK, but there is a similar energy in RFK.
Those vaccines don't work anyway. We don't need to worry about getting them there.
Number 1, who's the second best vaxxer on the vessel?
I'm gonna save some of that Gorn meat down there. We're gonna harvest it for drugs.
I left the Gorn corpse on
the
realized I had a reservation at Peter Luego, and then I had to catch a flight. I couldn't leave the corpse to molder in my shuttle. I hear they think Tholians did it.
We just did an episode where we just do JFK all the whole time.
Well, Matt, this has been Strange New Worlds. Remember, protect your precious bodily fluids and have a great night, everyone.
Thanks for listening.